Hello everyone, so yeah, this is AK August, and yeah, we've already posted up a few videos if you haven't already seen. So yeah, normally the schedule I have with this channel is I'll do like one video on the Monday, and then usually around Friday I do a video for the Patreon people, but then like I say, if something comes up I can give them a preview, I'll give them that first. It varies, and sometimes I'll do them earlier if I'm doing stuff at the weekend. It varies. So what is the idea behind this? So essentially it's various videos, pictures, stories, etc. about AK Girl, and my plan is to highlight at least one thing every month. Sorry, every day of this month. Brilliant. So yeah, so you get this idea of the character, what she's about. We have done this in previous years, so we have a playlist, so if you haven't already, you should be seeing a little highlight thing saying, you know, AK August in the top right corner there, and you can go through it and there's a whole bunch of stuff. You've got balloon models, you've got Haley Ann Evanett talking about voicing the character and all kinds of stuff, and I'm hoping to get a load more. Like I say, we've got some fun guest stuff lined up, so you know, watch this space, as they say. So yeah, so what am I talking about today? So this is a quick one. I wanted to briefly talk about how the character of AK Girl has changed, because obviously we've been doing the webcomic for over 12 years now, and the reboot is getting up to its 4th issue, which, yeah, like I say, at this point we'll be putting together the credits for the 4th issue. Then, let's say, getting it to the printers, and all being well, we'll have everything ready to do a proper launch at Norcon, which would be absolutely amazing. Okay, so in terms of AK Girl, so the character has existed in various forms for years. So I think the first time, like sort of when I was kind of first online, there was a website called the Alternative Reality Writers Zone, and that was when we first kind of formulated the character, and over time she's developed more and more and kind of become more distinct as a character, and I think she is the one that I think often when people think of the comic they tend to think of her as the character, and yeah, she's interesting. I mean, I love her as a character. I think she's someone who, my idea with her was always to have this character who's given psychic powers. But I think often, like when I would watch like cartoons and stuff, you'd see like the character with psychic powers would often be this very sort of serious, intense kind of character, and I kind of like the idea of what if you gave that powers to someone who wasn't like that, and who sort of had to deal with that. And she is someone who, you know, is a bit goofy, but she's not like she's not an idiot. She's had a lot to deal with, but she sort of deals with it in a different way. So Sal, I would say, is more kind of introspective, but I mean, we'll probably talk more about their relationship at another point. But yeah, I mean, the problem was, I think when we did the original webcomic, I think I made the mistake of kind of putting in certain sort of characteristics to kind of put her up front. So there was one bit where she moans about being more, like, really bored, and then she, like, punches Guillermo in the face to kind of encourage him to do training with her, which in retrospect is like, yeah, that was a bit much. And the incident where she gets the weakness she has is she inflates on contact with caramel. I wanted to present it more as an accident rather than something where she was like punished for doing something, which in retrospect doesn't look good, and I think changing that is a good thing. So Sensei Mike doesn't come off as much of a overbearing jerk as he did, and likewise Vibes isn't sort of as kind of snappy when it comes to violence either, and it is more about her discovering where she's from, and this has been good. I mean, likewise as a character, I mean, one thing that we changed with the reboot as opposed to the original webcomic was, so we started off with it being set on the planet Animal Kingdom, and I think the problem with that is that it kind of meant that people had to kind of have this tonal shift when, you know, you went from the first 3 issues to something completely different in the 4th, and I think it kind of threw people off, whereas I think with this first one in the reboot, it is very much, here is your central figure, and I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to have, you know, an audience insert, if you like, but I do think with Vibes it works. I think she is someone who you kind of go along with the ride with, and you get where she's coming from, and it's a lot to take in, and I liked, you know, the way it's changed, and obviously the artwork with Nicholas and Sid was great, and then with issue 2, you effectively had her having to deal with what was coming out with Sal and how that affects their relationship. And issue 3, she gets absolutely, you know, hit hard about, you know, things that she wasn't fully aware of. And I think the important thing with the whole psychic thing is the idea that it isn't perfect, because too often I see with certain so I think the balance is very hard to get right with heroes, because there's often this idea of such and such being OP, and I don't think Vibes is. I think one aspect is the fact that she has like the different modes, so strength, speed, etc., and they're all their own separate thing that she has to focus on. So none of these powers are perfect. They're all kind of limited in scope to how much she can focus, and it also then kind of circumvents the whole, oh well, why didn't they do X, Y, Z? It's like, well, because she isn't perfect and she's not always going to get the focus right. Pretty much as simple as that. And I think, yeah, sometimes I think people can look a bit too hard for plot holes, and it's like, yeah, if you kind of think that around this, it can work. And like with the weakness, like she has to focus herself, so it's like, again, it's sort of her not being a perfect character. I think it's important that she's a flawed character. I think she is. I think this idea of strong characters being very sort of stoic and reserved, and I think that covers pretty much any type of character. It's like, that can work and that can be really good, but I think in her case, that's not what she's about. Like, she does sort of get scared by these things. She is kind of trying to block these things out and sort of deal with it, and has trouble with it. And I think that is what makes her relatable in one way, which, like I say, when we sort of get around to talking about Sal, you know, it's relatable in a different way. And I think there is a certain, the dynamic I would define it as is kind of big sister, little sister, and Vibes is definitely little sister. So, for example, if you watch Frozen, you know, and okay, it's a bit of a cliche to talk about sort of Elsa and Anna, but I think, yeah, like I say, Sal definitely has the elements of the Elsa character, like struggling to deal with who she is, struggling to deal with her past, and I think that comes out. And whereas, like I say, Vibes is a lot more like, you know, I just want to help, I'm here for you, and she is upset and hurt that she gets shut out. And like I said, and they deal with it in different ways. And the other difference is, of course, is that Vibes, like, she will sort of fight. So another example of this in terms of when we have fight scenes, or how the character fights in the comic. I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and one of the cool things about that is if you watch it, each of the characters sort of has a fighting style that kind of reflects their personality. So you have a very calm, you know, so the Chow Yun-fat sort of mentor figure, very sort of calm, barely moves. The Xiao Liao, a bit more dynamic, but still kind of very disciplined, very much, you know, structured. Whereas like the Zhang Ziyi character, who's like the younger one, is all over the place and showing off and being silly done that. Whereas, and in this, like, Vibes is very similar. Like, she's the one that will sort of throw you a fake, or you know, get someone to slap themselves or something, just, and like, she's having fun, she's enjoying it. Whereas, like I say, if you look at a Sal fight, Sal is like, I'm getting this out of the way, you're annoying me, I've got other things to do. Like, the fight is a chore for her, whereas the fight is a game for Vibes. And I think, again, Guillermo, similar to the Chow Yun-fat character, very, like, a bit more clinical, but the difference with him, I think, is he's a bit more trigger happy, in that if you know how to press his buttons, you can catch him out. So, yeah, so that's a broad kind of overview, and the character is set to develop further. I had this recently with someone on DeviantArt, and so I'm just going to kind of quickly mention this. this is tangential because it doesn't refer to this specifically, but I'm just going to say, if for any reason you ask me a question and I say to you, I can't talk about this because spoilers, the response to that question is not then, oh, but what about blah 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 blah, and the question is like a tangential version of what you've just asked, because it's like the answer is the same. I can't tell you. What do you think? You go ahead and speculate, because I'm not spoiling my own story. That's nuts. But, you know, I mean, passion is great. I don't mind passion, but it's like, you know, I'm not giving that to you. You know, because, you know, I think this is the problem in a way, because of, you know, all the kind of theory videos and stuff like that. I think people kind of want stuff spoiled, and that's just not what I'm a fan of. It's like, I kind of want to go in cold when I can, really. Well, as much as is possible at the moment. But yeah, I've got to say, I really enjoy AK Girl as a character, and then again, I can't say this without also bringing up the fact that, you know, she is being brought to life by artists. So we had a redesign on the costumes. I think Susie did that originally, so it was flipped round from the black and red to red and black, which I think is good, because it's a good visual indicator. So if someone gets confused and was like, is this the original or the reboot, you just need to look at the costume. So that's good. And I think every artist kind of brings their quality to it. So like saying Nicholas and Sid, there's that very much sort of anime style. With Joe, it's a bit more European. With Emily, it's kind of a bit more kind of big eyes, a bit more exaggerated, which kind of worked well for the story that was done. And like I say, with our issue 4 artist, there's a different quality to that as well, which again feeds into the story. And I like that. I like different styles. I know some people disagree with me on that, but that's cool. You know, it's art. Differences of opinion are good. And obviously we can't discuss this without bringing in the voice acting, because Hayley does an absolutely terrific job as AK Girl, and I do recommend seeing her video about how she approaches the voice, because again, I do think she nails the character. I think she nails where she's from. I think she nails the you know, both in terms of, you know, sort of that kind of upbeat, you know, wanting to be a good person, wanting to do the right thing, but equally, you know, someone who has had to deal with difficult things and doesn't always sort of know how to process it. And I think, yeah, she does an absolutely terrific job. I really do. And so this is a start to this kind of AK August video series. Like I say, we've got some more stuff lined up. I'm hoping to get some more people involved. If you would like to submit a video to us, then by all means do so. Details will be coming up in a second, so get that, you know, link in the description, usual gubbins. And like I say, if you want to do art, if you want to do stories, all of that would be appreciated. Anyway, much love, guys. Mwah.